Did you know that the man who would conquer more territory than anyone in human history was once abandoned by his own people? He was born Temujin in 1162, the son of a minor chief. But when he was just 9 years old, his father was poisoned by enemies, and their clan turned on his family, casting them out. They were left to starve on the unforgiving steppes of Mongolia, with only a few loyal retainers. And Temujin and his family were forced to live off the land, hunting rats and digging for roots to eat. He grew up hating those who betrayed his father and sent his family into exile. But through this hatred and anger, he found strength and purpose. And Temujin swore to himself that he would never beg for food again. He would be a force to be reckoned with. But how can a runaway kid who has been rejected by his own people become the most successful military commander of all time? How did he transform from a powerless orphan to the most feared leader in the known world? You are watching this channel, and today we will find out how Temujin became Genghis Khan, aka Ocean of Battles, a title given to him after he united the Mongol clans and founded the Mongol Empire. After spending several years surviving in the wilderness, Temujin and his family returned to find that their clan had suffered greatly during their absence. The other chieftains had seized their wealth, and some even tried to kill Temujin's family members. However, Temujin was determined to make a comeback. He quickly assembled a small army of loyal followers and set about reclaiming his family's honor. He launched surprise attacks against his enemies, stealing their goods and freeing his people. As he became more successful, other Mongols who had suffered under the rule of the rival chieftains joined his cause. By the age of 30, Temujin had established himself as a powerful leader and was known throughout Mongolia as a fierce warrior and cunning strategist. In 1190, an important meeting was held among the Mongol tribes to discuss the election of a new leader. Each tribe sent representatives to the assembly, and after much debate and discussion, they agreed to make Temujin their leader and gave him the title of Khan. Temujin took the title Genghis Khan, although there were some holdouts, like Jamuka, who was initially a friend of Temujin's, but turned into a rival. Eventually, almost all of the Mongol tribes united under his banner. As the ruler of the Mongols, Genghis Khan had many obstacles to overcome. His empire was constantly under threat from rival nomadic tribes, as well as from the Chinese and Korean kingdoms. But Genghis Khan was up to the task. He led his armies to victory in dozens of battles, expanding his empire and securing his people's dominance over the steppes of Mongolia. But Genghis Khan was not just a great warrior. He was also a brilliant strategist and administrator. He organized the Mongol army into a highly effective fighting force, equipped with advanced weaponry and tactics. He also established a system of law and order throughout his empire, which helped to maintain stability and peace. Additionally, he promoted trade and cultural exchange between different parts of his empire, which helped to enrich the lives of his subjects and spread the influence of Mongol culture. It is no exaggeration to say that Genghis Khan's contributions to the Mongol Empire were monumental. Without his leadership, it is unlikely that the Mongols would have been able to achieve such great heights. However, despite his many accomplishments, Genghis Khan is often remembered as a ruthless conqueror, and his legacy is a controversial one. Now, opponents of Genghis Khan argued that he was a brutal dictator who waged war on anyone who opposed him, and that he oversaw the deaths of millions of people. On the other hand, supporters of Genghis Khan argued that he was a visionary leader who created a prosperous and stable empire, and that he should be remembered for his many accomplishments. Whatever one may think of Genghis Khan's legacy, there is no denying that he was one of the most influential figures in history. His empire stretched from the Pacific Ocean to Eastern Europe, and his conquests had a profound impact on the course of human history. He was a brilliant military strategist and a skilled diplomat, and he was also a patron of the arts and sciences. He was a complex and enigmatic figure who was often misunderstood, and it is important to examine both the positive and negative aspects of his legacy in order to get a complete picture of this great leader. So let us take a closer look at some of the things that made Genghis Khan such a powerful and influential ruler. First and foremost, Genghis Khan was a brilliant military strategist and commander. He led his armies to victory in dozens of battles against some of the most powerful armies in the world at the time, including the Kara-Katai, the Western Xia, and the Jin dynasty. He was known for his ability to outmaneuver his opponents and his willingness to use unconventional tactics. For example, he famously used feigned retreats to lure his enemies into traps, and his cavalry charges were devastatingly effective. Another key factor in Genghis Khan's success as a military leader was the loyalty and discipline of his troops. Unlike many other nomadic tribes of the time, the Mongols were highly disciplined and were willing to follow Genghis Khan's orders to the letter. They were also fiercely loyal to each other, and were willing to sacrifice everything for the good of the empire. In addition to his military skills, Genghis Khan was also an excellent administrator and lawmaker. He created a centralized government and legal system that helped to maintain stability and order throughout his vast empire. He also implemented a number of economic policies that helped to promote trade and industry. Perhaps most importantly, though, was his introduction of the Yasa, a comprehensive code of laws that applied to all subjects of the empire, regardless of their status or background. The Yasa covered everything from taxation and trade to criminal law and inheritance, and it helped to create a sense of unity and stability throughout the empire. But perhaps what made Genghis Khan truly great was his ability to unite the Mongol tribes under a single banner. The Mongols had traditionally been divided into several independent clans and tribes, but Genghis Khan was able to forge a sense of unity and identity among them. He was able to do this partly by promoting a common language and culture, but also by creating a system of rewards and punishments that incentivized loyalty and obedience. Sadly, the great Genghis Khan's life was cut short. In 1227, while campaigning against the Western Shia dynasty, he fell off a horse and was injured. Some sources claim that he was thrown from a horse while hunting, while others say that he was pushed by one of his wives. Whatever the truth may be, he died soon after and was buried in a tomb near his birthplace in Mongolia. Although Genghis Khan's death was a great loss for the Mongol Empire, his legacy lived on. His empire continued to expand under the rule of his successors, and his grandson Kublai Khan would go on to conquer China and establish the Yuan dynasty. So what is the secret to Genghis Khan's success? What made him such a powerful and influential leader? Well, it was probably a combination of factors. He was a brilliant military strategist and commander, an excellent administrator and lawmaker, and a master of political organization. But above all else, he was a man with a clear vision for the future, a man who was willing to sacrifice everything to achieve his goals. For many centuries, the Mongols were seen as a nomadic, uncivilized people who had unleashed a reign of terror across Asia. However, recent scholarship has painted a more nuanced and accurate picture of these fascinating people. We now know that the Mongols were actually quite sophisticated, and their empire was one of the largest and most diverse in history. The Mongols were known for their skill in horsemanship and their ability to ride and fight while shooting bows and arrows. They were also highly skilled in the art of war, and their armies were known for their discipline and efficiency. The Mongols were also surprisingly tolerant of other cultures and religions, and their empire was home to people from all walks of life. But perhaps the most surprising thing about the Mongols is their lasting legacy. Despite the fact that their empire fell apart after Genghis Khan's death, their influence can still be felt today. The Mongols were responsible for some of the most significant exchanges of ideas and goods between East and West, and their empire helped to connect the world in ways that had never been done before. The Mongols may have been a fierce and warlike people, but they were also innovators and pioneers. Their empire was a melting pot of cultures, and their legacy continues to inspire awe and wonder today. So next time you hear the name Mongol, remember that these were not just bloodthirsty barbarians, but a complex and fascinating people who shaped the course of world history. Thank you for watching. Subscribe for more videos of history's most unstoppable figures.